It's Lancaster Woodturners Weekly Coffee Hour, number 249, I believe. My name's John Kelsey. I'll be your moderator as usual today. In the recording, I'm going to post my email address for any of you all who are out there watching this on YouTube and would like to attend Coffee Hour Live. You're welcome. It's free to woodturners anywhere. Sponsored by Lancaster Area Woodturners here in Lancaster, PA. We find that having this be open and free makes it interesting and fun for our members, and it's also one of our best sources of new members. So there you go. Because we remain a club that's both in person and virtual. We do all kinds of stuff online. I see a bunch of hands up today. I'm going to preempt you a little bit. I put a slideshow together that I've been wanting to show you, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to go be brisk about it and try and leave space for other people, but I'm going to just uh, use moderator's privilege here this morning. I hope that's okay with everybody. Okay, small boxes with hidden magnets. You've seen some of this as it goes, and I think I've kind of brought it all together. I started out making these small flat pill boxes with visible magnets, and I do that because I need to carry one, so I want to have a good one. And at the end of the show, I'll show you the one I do carry. This is my best attempt at, if the magnets are going to show, let's make a feature out of them. And these holes are turned white by using a paste made with baking soda and super glue. And it's kind of pearly in its effect. It's good. So one way of hiding I got challenged to hide the magnets. So one way of hiding the magnets is with a slip ring on the outside. So the magnets are inside the box lid, and the slip ring fits on the outside and covers them. But you get a glue line. But these are a couple of examples of how that works, and that's a pretty good technique, and I'm going to detail that technique in a minute. Another way of doing it is put the magnets in the slip ring, and that goes inside the box lid. But then you got a very fragile ring, and it's very hard to bore it accurately without breaking the ring, and it's not a good strategy. And I haven't got a successful box there, or I would have showed it. And then you can have a flange or no flange. This has no flange, so it has the drum top. The ring slides down, covers the magnets. You get a glue line visible on the inside, and then you make the top into a drum and hide the glue line in the drum, and it works pretty well. I like that solution, and I like this box. The other way is to make a flange on the box lid and use the same slip ring, but now the foot glue line that showed up there is hidden in another bead at the foot of the foot of the inside of the box lid. So that was a pretty good strategy. This particular box is not one I like very much. It's got too many beads, but the strategy is not bad. In fact, it's good. The other way is to put the flange on the box ring itself and then stop the ring against that. You still get the visible glue line on the inside of the bottom of the lid, but you get an unbroken top surface. You don't have to go to a drum surface. So that's a pretty good strategy. Okay, fitting the rings. Now, if you're going to fit the ring on the outside of the box, then you make the ring first and turn the box to fit it, as you can see on the left. So you turn the ring, hollow it out just like it was a box, part it off. Uh, while it's still attached to the block, you get to make sure that it's got parallel sides. No angle works except straight dead parallel. And then you can fit that to what will become the box lid, just simply pairing the box lid. So you make the innie first, because that's the hardest to get straight, and then you can make the outer to fit it. The other way around, if you're going to do the flange solution, you do it the other way around. You hollow out the lid, and then you make the flange to fit, and then part it off. And that's what's the drawing on the right. We're going to see both of these in the slideshow, I think. So starting out to make a small bill box, I got a canary wood blank 3x3 by about 3 1/4. That'll end up with a 7/8 or 3/4 inch thick box. Probably the canary wood blank could be just a 3x3x3 cube. Here's the tool tray that I'm using. A lot of small scrapers, a lot of little thin rulers, vernier caliper. Okay, turn it around, mark a witness triangle that I align up with a notch in the number 1 jaw, so I can always get the blocks back on in the way I made them. Both ends have a tenon, part off the lid piece. Then you make you hollow out the ring next, right in the block that's in the chuck. And you make it just like you were making a box lid. I tried making it as a ring and leaving a plug inside, and you can do that, but that's very difficult to dimension correct. It's very difficult to get that parallel. This method, you can get it parallel. You hollow it out like it was a box piece, as you can see on the left, and on the right is testing the parallelism. You stick a ruler in there tight against the side of the box wall and sight that against the lathe ways, and it's either parallel or it's not. You can get very, very accurate with that technique. And then you can easily pair what will become the box inside of the box lid and the top of the box lid to slip inside the ring you just made. On the left, you can see the fundamental technique for getting a good fit. You take it down close enough, and then you make a taper and hold the piece you're trying to fit to it up to the taper, not with the lathe on, just hold it up and twist it a bit, and you'll see a scuff exactly where it fits perfect, and you compare it to that. So here's the three elements of a pill box and where they were in the blank. There's the lid and the ring and the box base going right to left. This box base has a plug on it. This particular ring was parted off rather than taken off as a box, as I just described. Here's the boring setup I'm using to bore for the magnets. On the right here, there is a horse head shaped sort of flat plate. That allows me to square the tool rest to the front edge of that and use the tailstock ram to advance that toward the headstock. And then the drill is an old gun drill, electric gun drill in a block mounted on a tool rest, in the tool rest post, and the bar on the top of that is simply used to sight against the latheways, again to get it parallel. So with all this together, I could get a truly radial angle, a radial shot dead on center. And all of these are with 3/16 inch magnets. So this is a pain in the butt to put on and take off the lathe. So I usually make several boxes and then bore them all at once. And you always bore the outside, a bigger ring first, so you can trace the holes onto the inside ring as a check against what your measurements say it ought to be. A final problem is setting the hole depth in the box base, and there is a stop on the drill press apparatus, on the drill apparatus that you can see over on the left.
I'll get it once I'm done there.
So I usually get the drill bit, I can sight it against the end of the wood and then, maneuver it to the right place. And by doing that way, as you can see on the right, I can get a stopped hole in the box base. So the magnets show on the outside, they don't show inside where your cargo is. And you do have to verify the depth of that hole, which I do with a small vernier. But once you get one of them right, they'll all be right. What the problem is, you can't rebore them. You bore the hole and the magnet will fit tight. You come back and fool around with it and try and bore it again or make it a little deeper. You can also make it bigger. The magnet will never fit tight. So installing the magnets on the left, I got a little 8 or so magnets, and I'm simply pressing them into the holes where they go. And as long as I don't rotate the stack, it'll all work out. And I can always check it, part A against part B, by checking how the magnets stick. I usually end up, as on the right, mounting the workpiece in the lathe chuck, and then using a bamboo dowel and a small hammer to tap them to where they need to go to get the depth just right, because I want them to be below the surface on both, wherever they appear below the surface, so that I can fill the hole up flush with the baking soda mixture. And you can't do it with a steel tool, of course, so the bamboo dowel is the key, and then sharpen them with a pencil sharpener, and away you go. Now, once the magnet is set in there in the right place, a drop of thin super glue anchors it, and then I fill the hole by using a plastic spatula to put baking soda in the hole, and then add a drop of super glue to that, and it turns into kind of a cement. It's quite remarkable. It makes a mess on the outside, but it's easy to turn that off. And then I have to glue the show ring onto the magnet ring. And in this case, the show ring is a 1/4 inch extra fatter than it ought to be. or longer than it ought to be. That was from, you know, and I think it's on a flanged box. I think this was an experimental one. This was the photo I had, because when I'm in the middle of gluing, I am not remembering to take pictures, but I wanted you to see what a mess it is. And what I usually do is put a piece of paper over the bladeways and let the glue fall where it may. So that's what I do. That's how I manage all that. This one is glued with super glue. I usually use epoxy and let it set overnight. That way, epoxy does some gap filling and it works very well. Okay, now here's the jar strategy. This is a small jar with visible magnets, which I made a lot of. The as in the boxes, if the magnets are appropriately offset, pulls the lid down with a sharp click, which is very pleasant. And I want to be able to pick that box up by its lid without the bottom falling off. That's the test I'm after. Here's two approaches using a flanged ring that fits inside the lid. So on the left, the spalted tamarind box, there's no visible magnet line there, but the one glue line is at the top of the bead, and the other glue line you can see in the drawing is the shoulder where the inside flange meets the lid. This is a really good strategy because you can those are two surfaces that it's really easy to get to match, just two flat joints, and then you can have a not so good fit between the rings on the vertical line because the epoxy will fill that in. So that's pretty successful technically, and it's pretty successful aesthetically, and it gives you a lot of scope for what you do with the lid. The box on the right has got an inlay lid, and the bottom drawing shows the deets for that. I always what I do lately is I take this block of wood and draw around it, and then I draw inside that rectangle what I'm going to do. So here's a maple cylinder that's turned with its tenons against the drawing I made before I started, and this is a box that we're going to see at least some of being made with the flanged inside ring and the lid and the bottom. So you round the blank tenon both ends and part off the lid piece. Hollow out the lid and make the side walls parallel and to the depth you want. And this is the one place you really need the drawing plus experience. There's an awful lot of, why is that way? And the thickness of the flange my error is usually getting it too thick, and then I got way too much wood to pare off. But anyway, that's part of what making a lot of them does for you. So then after hollowing out the lid, you turn the flanged magnet ring, make that fit inside the lid and part that off. So on the left, you can see me measuring the thickness of the flange, and on the right, I'm parting off the ring with the flange attached. Now I'm going to fit the flanged ring to the tenon on the box body, and the usual tactic, make a slope, hold it up to the slope, and see exactly where it fits on that slope, and that's your line. So here's the parts. Here's a box lid with the flanged inner piece that's going to hold the magnets, be the magnet ring, and the box body not yet shaped but hollowed out with its own tenon where the magnets are going to be. So gluing the two-part lid, I usually use epoxy, and I gotta put epoxy on all the surfaces after the magnets have been installed. It's just the usual procedure, and I clamp it and I leave it overnight, even though I'm using two-part epoxy. I find that's really the only way to do it. And then cleaning up the glued lid, there's always, you make it tight because you're going to remove wood later, getting the glue residues off. And I use a little tool like this. It's a Boxmaster tool with a double bevel scraper, or what do you call it, negative rake scraper. And the angle between the long side and the short end must be less than 90 degrees. And with it that way, you can go straight in to make the box side, and you can clean up that corner without causing a spiral that dances across the inside of the lid. How am I doing? 10:15. You guys still with me?
We're here.
Okay. And I usually have shaped the box base at this point. I don't have any slides showing you this, but when I make the box base, I know where I'm going to go with it. So I make the shape, and I know how big it's going to be on the outside. So I go to a finish shape, and I usually sand it, and I often finish it right before I go any further. In this case, I didn't finish it first. So I've got the box lid glue up, the two-part lid in with the flange and the lid over top of it in the chuck, and I'm just allowing the magnets to hold it in place, so I can mark where it actually fits. So that's the unit. That's the line I got to be shooting toward. I need the eye to visually find that place. And I can mark it here before I go any further with the lid. The problem is with this strategy is you either have to have a good photo or a good note in the pad to know how much wood you have to remove from that lid, because you no longer can see what the thickness is of the magnet piece. But I pretty much standardized that at 3/16. So working backwards from that, I can usually tell where I am in the workpiece. So now I'm turning the outside of the lid with beads and fitting it to the box body, and I'm looking for what seems to be a continuous line between lid and body. And once I got all that right, and while it's still on the lathe, I'm going to sand it and then finish it with Osmo. And I'm doing this with the technique that we learned from Duxbury. I drill a hole in the Osmo can and then drip it out on my fingertip as I need it, and apply it where I need it, and turn the lathe up to about 2000 and hit it hard with a shop towel. Buffs it right in, and I can keep on working. So as I finish a surface, I finishing a surface includes sanding it to 320 and putting a first coat of Osmo on it. I'll probably wipe on 2 more coats of Osmo before I consider the piece finished, but this is the base coat that gets it going. And what I like about it is I can just carry right on working. I don't need, it's just like as good as lacquer. I don't need to wait for anything to dry. So here's my 25 boxes I've made so far in 2025. I've actually made more than that, but this is you want to investigate a subject, this is where you're going to get to, or this is the least where I got to. I've actually made more than these because I give them away, and I'll see that in a minute. I've given away about 10 so far this year, boxes and jars. Here's my 2 favorite pill boxes. One with the ring of magnets showing, 8 dummy rings and 4 real magnets. I like that as a decorative effect. My current experimentation is to make those dots colored and shimmery in different ways. And the other one, the canary wood one, simply hidden magnets. You don't see them on the inside. You only inside of the cargo area, and you don't see them on the outside of the lid. And you do have the glue line inside the lid, but hey, it doesn't matter. But I find both of these to be elegant and useful and nice. I'm quite happy with how this has worked out, and the investigation has gotten me to. I know how to make these. And then the same with small jars. These all use the flanged ring that fits inside the lid, except the mahogany one, which is a simple slip ring. The slip ring gives you the dome top. The flanged ring gives you the clean top, where it doesn't have to have the drum effect. And as you can see in the in the right-hand slide, there's no glue line in there. The glue line is hidden up in the seam at the top and in the bead. So I think that's a pretty good strategy. This is where they go. Barbara chose a mahogany one with spalted tamarind, and I enjoy the delight people get when they get one of these things, and I usually remember to get a good photo. This is my own pillbox, the one I've been carrying for the last. I noticed in my slide when I found the slide of this that this was made in somehow in early 23. So every couple of years I upgrade, but I've still been happy with this one for quite a while. It's face grained and not end grained. It's Cocobolo. There's 2 compartments inside, which matters. The magnets are visible. I'm good with that. The fact that it's face grained, I've noticed all of the boxes that are really thin tend to be face grained. When the boxes are end grained, they just have to be thicker, or the lid and the base don't have enough integrity. So those are some of the small bits of making these things. And I think that's the last slide. Yeah, that's my adventure. Am I back on your screens? Or do I ended the share?
You're back.
comments and questions?
Yeah, I have a comment. That's really an amazing study you've done on that. And I think Mike Peace already said it. I think we need an American Woodturner article on it. So do your best.
Well, you just got the article. I'm probably never going to write it, but I probably will post it as a slideshow.
Hey, John, let me ask a question. You you made some beautiful boxes, and you want to come and risk burning the top of some of them with the laser?
Bottoms. Yeah, well, I've got a dummy piece or two to set up. I want to, instead of burning my initials sloppily with a pen the way I do now, I like the experiment we did with the laser, so I'd like to try that.
Oh, I'm all for it. I'm just scared to death that I'm going to mess it up somehow.
Yeah, as you see, I can always make another box.
Yeah, just another box. Just another how many days?
Well, no, I make a box in a work session basically. And so each day I can make one or two boxes. Each day I usually will be working on 3 boxes, but I'm really making them at the pace of one in about 3 hours.
So then, in preparation, can you give me some idea of how much? So the bottom's not domed, correct?
Most of them are flat, right?
So what that still means is we need to figure out a way to stabilize. Well, the top will come off, so you have a flat rim.
And I have a little base piece that they can all sit on, so they can all be at the same height.
Okay. Well, I'm not worried about the height. I just want to make sure they're stable, and I'm leery about trying to inscribe or burn the domed part, because I'm afraid the laser will be uneven across a domed surface.
Yeah, I'm not after that. Only flat bottoms.
We're just doing the bottoms.
Yeah.
Well, that makes me feel a little more comfortable. I've also tried to calibrate it so the crosshairs and the laser are actually 2 separate beams, and mine was off by about maybe a millimeter or so. And it was really bugging the hell out of me because I couldn't get it to be registered properly when I'm trying to come close to the edge of something. So I think I've got it calibrated. I'll check it again, and we'll check it again tomorrow to make sure that we're good to go.
Well, this is an example of what we were talking about earlier, part of the fun here is I'm going to take a dozen boxes down to Ziegler's place, and we're going to spend a couple hours working on them. And I'm going to enjoy the visit, and I'm going to enjoy being in his shop, and I'm going to enjoy his skill with his laser machine. And I think he's going to enjoy my company and fooling around with the boxes as well. I had Bill Heaps here the other morning for a shop tour. That's one of the real benefits of doing coffee hour and participating in club stuff. You guys in Edmonton sure know that. You have your breakfast every Tuesday morning.
I was thinking
I'm looking forward to it, John.
Hey, I think the wood burning video might be a video too. Maybe we can do a little study on that.
Well, let's get
and I have a question for you, John. Have you found that the magnets are going up in price?
No, they all are in the 20 cents each, 30 cents each sort of range. And I buy them, a box uses 8 magnets, right? So I buy 3-4 dozen at a time, sometimes 100 at a time. You get a price break at 100, but the only size I'd ever buy 100 of would be 3/16 by 3/16, or 3/16 by 1/8. Those are the 2 sizes I use the most. And for blind holes, I use a metalworking bit, and if I'm boring through, I use a brad point bit.
Do you get them off of Amazon, or do you have a special place to buy them?
I buy magnets from K&J Magnetics, and they're easy to find. KJ Magnetics. They're in Pennsylvania. They mail them. I place an order. They arrive in the mail 2 days later, and perfect.
I'd like to ask the question about the laser signatures or the medallion signatures. I have a son who's said to me once when I was doing a lot of photos, he said, "Dad, I want to see your signature on that artwork." I was doing prints at the time. I don't want it printed in digitally. I don't want, I know your signature's not perfect, but it's your signature. And I think of that every time I burn a brand on the back. And then, if I try to write anything with a burner or with a pen, it's screwed up. But it's my work.
Well, that's what I've always
So,
held the same view, and I burn in initials with the pen, and I burn in the year, and that's all I've ever done. But we did an experiment a couple of weeks ago, and I liked it, so I was going to try some more of it.
the laser did attract me.
So another way to deal with that, I think John asked me John asked me a while ago, did I burn my name in the bottom of any of my bowls? And I said, no, I don't, because to your point, even though my command, the wood burning pen is not terrific, it's me doing it. But on the other hand, I put my initial in the center, and I usually write what the wood is and who it's for, what have you. So it occurs to me that I could burn all of that detailed information with a laser, but I could still handwrite, if you will, my initials, so that there's some component.
Yeah. The other question is, no other art that I know of puts embosses or prints or chisels into their work what it is, where it came from. They only sign it. So why does woodworkers feel a need to put what wood it is, what the date is, and all that?
Well, everybody dates it. Painters sign and date it. I don't burn the wood. Most people do. I don't burn the wood. I want the person receiving the box to ask me, and I'll tell them, and they can remember it or not as they choose. But I'm not going to draw it into the workpiece. And then sometimes I don't know. There's that. Anything else on the boxes? I appreciate you putting up with the slideshow. I enjoyed showing that. I know I raced through it, deliberately went through it as quick as I could. Any other comments or questions besides about signatures?
Well, not about that, John, but Patty says our electric went out and our panel smells funny, so I got to go check out what's going on in the house.
Oh, geez.
Jesus, off you go.
I got a quick question on the boxes.
Yeah.
The magnets, when you offset them a little bit so the lid draws closed,
Yes.
right? Okay, now what if you twist the lid so the magnets don't align? Will it not clasp? You know what I mean?
They kind of spin closed. They spin closed with a snap. So I've opened the box, right? It spins to it with a clack to where it lives. There's 4 pairs of magnets.
Right.
So every quarter turn they fit, and by being offset vertically in this direction, they want to line up. A stack of magnets wants to line up in a clean stack, so it wants to pull the lid down. So if they're not aligned, and it's loose enough, so it'll spin to where it wants to go.
It will spin. I was wondering if it.
And it's going to spin because by the time you clean the glue off there, it's going to, no matter how tight you make it, you got to make it fit to be able to align them in the first place. You can't have it loose. You can't just do it by measurement. You'll get it wrong. So by the time you glue them in and clean off the glue, there's going to be enough looseness in there. And there needs to be more than a 32nd, less than a 16th of looseness. And if the box, and these are end grain, so I get minimal distinction. Now the ones that are face grain, this one has had a lot of movement, and I've carried it in my pocket 2 years now. And it fits the way it's tight enough so it won't fit really, and I can't do anything about that, but it'll line up in the right direction. So part of it is how much looseness do you need, and it's more than you think.
Okay, I was wondering about if you didn't have enough magnet, like the 4, and you clasped it off of the 90 degrees, would it just fall back off? So then I thought, well, if you put more magnets, would you start getting opposition or resistance from one magnet to the other, and then it wouldn't clasp?
You can't.
You know what I mean?
You'd have to put them awfully close together to get that.
Okay.
Earlier in other years, when I had magnets oriented the other way, I did a lot of experiments with having them. They would only hold together when the grain was lined up, and any other orientation they would throw the lid off. And you can make it do that, and you can have kind of fun with that. But people don't understand it. It bollockses them. Nobody enjoys it, except the maker. So. But
Gotcha.
you can do a bunch of trickery like that once you get deep into this.
Yeah, okay.
So, John, if you would put your box together with, I think Steve was talking about 90 degrees magnet to magnet, they would not find each other and line your box up unless you spin it physically.
It doesn't take a hell of a lot of spin. You know, they want
But
to.
I mean, you couldn't just drop it on and it'll go.
Yeah,
lock
yeah,
in.
you can. You pretty much, you usually can. It depends on, I don't have one up here, but one with 6 sets of magnets, it'll do that exactly.
Yeah.
It'll
Okay,
just,
that's what my question was.
Yeah.
How many magnets do you need to move? So that any way you put it on, it automatically turn without you turning it.
6 pairs,
Okay.
and a loose enough fit. And
Yep.
that will give you a box that is tight enough that you don't worry about it coming open in luggage. You can just chuck it in your suitcase. It's going to stay shut.
Gotcha. That's what I was. That's exactly what I was wondering about, Jim. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Four is good in the pocket and purse. In luggage, maybe it'll get pried open.
John,
John,
the other thing, go ahead, Doug. I have a question. Box fit.
Have you thought about reversing 2 of the magnet sets so that you only get one position where it actually clicks together?
Yeah, it doesn't do you any good. It doesn't spin it.
I know. I was just making that way the grain shows up the same way every time. I was thinking from the aesthetics of the finished box. So when you spin it, when you put it together, what you're talking about, you could put it in any one of 4 positions,
Right.
base or whatever. And I just have this thing about my grain lining up all the time, I guess. And I said, so you have to be conscious about that one, the way you've done it.
Oh yeah, you have to. That's why you have to index the pieces with triangles and trace one set of holes through another and know exactly where. Yeah, there's nothing random about where the magnets go. That's for sure. And the grain is lined up all the time. I'm forever working with the alignment, and from the way
I
the
hear you.
pieces are parted off the block affects that too. And yeah.
John, years ago when I first became acquainted with boxes, there was a turner, and I can't think of his name now, who he was known for air fit boxes or whatever you call.
Raffin makes those. You can do that.
That wasn't Raffin,
Angelo
but it
does
was
that.
another guy.
Angelo does that. A lot of guys do that. That's another. It's not that easy to do either. You should try it.
No. But I just wondered how that interfaces with the magnet thing. I guess maybe yours, if they didn't have the magnets to pull in, might be airtight or whatever you call it.
They are. They are. But by the time you put in the glue and clean all that off, you inevitably lose some wood, and you want some looseness. Magnet boxes do not want to be that tight. Any wood movement in there, it's a goner. Yeah. Anybody else? And I'll move on to the hands. Thank you all for your indulgence. Mike Peace, what do you like to show us today?
A couple of boxes, no magnets.
Go for it.
This is a box of Koa Ia. A friend of mine, Emiliano, sent me from Maui. So it's got a really nice chatoyance, and it's got kind of a snap fit, little texture. Can't see it, very little texture on the bottom and a little bit of texture on the inside. And then my other box is marble wood.
Oh, I like that.
And the grain almost, well, let's see if I can get, yeah, the grain lines up.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
And it's got not quite a snap fit, a little looser fit, a little twist, and it comes off. And
Magnets would do you good in that one. That box should have been a magnet box.
That's all.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any questions or comments?
Hey,
for
I got a
Mike?
question for the 2 box makers. Do you make them really, really dry? Do you test for dryness before you start making the boxes?
I do. I know how dry it is. I know how long I've had it and where I've had it. I know.
So you have a meter that you actually check it?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't do that. I just use dry wood. This wood came from Rockler, and I've had it in my shop at least 5 years.
Yeah.
A small block of wood, so I know it's it's dry and stable. And exotics tend to be fairly stable. Same thing with this block. I've had this one in my shop for several years, and it wasn't a large. It was a blank about this size. So 3 years in my shop, I know it's certainly dry. If it's greenwood, I will usually rough it out and set it on a shelf. And because they're so thin, so little, the water moves very easily through the straws because there's so little for it to go through. If it's been sitting on a rack 6 months, I know it's dry and stable.
I follow exactly the same practice, but I find that some of the exotics that you buy, I, for example, have a block of Wengi downstairs. It came with wax on it. I sawed off a piece and made a box out of that piece. The remaining Wengi with wax, but an end that's now open to the air, is developing cracks. That wood was a lot wetter than I was imagining. And as Mike says, if I keep that around my shop for 4 or 5 years, it'll settle out before I start to work it. And I'll always remember Tay Frid used to say, you got to get ahead on your wood, you got to get ahead on your wood. And he died, of course, with a barn full of excellent walnuts. So there you go. Okay. David Hudgel.
Yes, sir. If I put a piece of wood up for 5 years, I may never see it again.
Well, there's that.
This is a project in progress. It's a natural edge piece of black walnut that's mostly sapwood with some nice grain pattern. And I think we partially discussed what I want to talk about, and that's the finishing. I put some cut-off pieces to try to find a finish that would not darken the sapwood. A shellac, bright tone, Helmsman spar urethane, 2 types of Krylon coverage, crystal clear and a gloss, and then Osmo top oil. And I experimented with all those, and there was only one that didn't darken the sapwood. Which one would it be?
Was it Osmo?
You're right, the Osmo top oil. This piece has 2 coats on it so far, and I buffed it a little bit on the bureau system, but I'd like to have more gloss. So anybody have comments about how I can get more gloss without changing the darkness?
Yeah, you get the Osmo top oil gloss formula and put a 3rd and 4th coat on with that. Just wipe them on and wipe them off.
The gloss, okay.
Yeah, they sell a gloss. A tiny little can will last you the rest of your life. If you've got 2 of Osmo top oil on there now, 1 or 2 of the gloss and you're done.
Great, thank you.
And when it's been off the lathe and you don't really want to put it back on the lathe, I just wipe it on. I go for a little walk around the shop for maybe 2 or 3 minutes and wipe it off again and let it sit overnight. It actually takes about a week to fully harden up, but if I do it that way, I don't get any fingerprints. I get good coverage over the whole piece. It works out pretty good.
Great, thank you.
Hey, John, I think we ought to ask Osmo to sponsor this show because we are so advocating it.
Well, that would poison it. We won't have no sponsors.
I know.
Every so often somebody comes along and says, you could monetize this. You could have banner ads. Yeah, right. No, thank you.
Don't need any lords, right? So.
Okay, you good on that, David?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Jerry.
I'd like to share a screen.
Go for it.
Can you see that?
You sure can.
Oops, I lost it.
Well, we got it.
You got it, okay.
It flew over here.
I had been away from the lathe for a month or 6 weeks. I got my eyes taken care of, drooping eyelid surgery over in West Virginia, and then the cataract surgery a month later. But I had this chunk of walnut sitting on the lathe that Gerald had given me, and so I made this. It's almost like a piece of crockery. I think it's a lidded pot, and the bottom is walnut, and then the dabbled iridescent paint, a gold, and then a turquoise on top of the gold, while the gold is still kind of wet. And the top, I don't know what kind of wood that is. I know that it's extremely heavy, and it really cut well, but I don't know what it is. And let's see.
Now, go back to that green and gold band. Now, how'd you make that?
That is Joe Sonia's iridescent paint. And instead of blown around with an air gun the way I usually do, I just dabbled it with a piece of kitchen paper towel.
No, what's the order of events though? When did you put that on, and how did you get such a clean edge?
Oh, the clean edge was the absolute last thing I did. And the reason it has a clean edge is I took pictures of it. And when I looked at it, I thought, look at that, the ragged edge. So I make stuff so I can put it back on the lathe, and I did. And I just used my favorite parting tool and just cleaned the edge, top and bottom. And it looks, somebody on Facebook said it looked like a pearl inlay. And how did you do it? And I told him I'd tell him Sunday in church, but it's just paint, it's a cheap trick, but it gets extremely hard. And then I spray it with the what is it? The stuff that most people use in a rattle can.
Spray acrylic,
Lacquer?
spray lacquer.
What is it? It's a spray lacquer. Yeah.
And what's the,
And pardon me?
well, how does the lid fit?
The lid fits nice, but actually,
No, I mean, what's your mechanism in there? Where's the flange, or what's?
Oh, okay. Let me unshare the screen because I'm holding it in the pot in my hand, and maybe we can
Okay.
do that. So let's see. What do I stop share? Okay. You should see me now, right?
Yeah, we see you now.
Yes.
Hold it up, and that's a good place to hold it. Okay. Now, how does the lid go in that? Show me the bottom of the lid now. That's what I want to see. But
It's not real tight, but it's not loose either.
Okay, that's what I'm after. Got it. So there's a flange under there. It looks a little chewed up there.
Yeah, that happened late. I'm not sure how that happened.
Yeah.
It's actually very smooth. It's not chewed up in reality. It's
That's the part where it
Anyhow.
always beats me up too. I get to that point, and how'd that happen?
Yeah, right. But this is what I wanted to make. Oops, wrong way.
That way.
But I just said, let me put this ridge in here because it doesn't cost anything. And then I said, let me make a lid and see if it'll fit. And it fits so well, I didn't even want to sand it anymore. And so that's the story on this. There's the bottom. That's walnut. The whole thing is walnut, but there's black paint up here, acrylic paint.
So what's the wall
And-
thickness in the middle of the wall there? Half an inch?
In the middle of the wall, it's kind of thick because it's
Yeah.
this pointed thing here.
Yeah.
It's around 1/4 of an inch otherwise, but it gets more like a 1/2 inch or more there because I wanted a smooth curve in here.
Yeah. I go through
know.
the same thing. Yeah, exactly.
And that's the sacrifice you make. If you want that smooth curve, then you can't follow it all the way out to that point.
Right.
And so it's a little bit heavy, but I really don't care that it's heavy. It won't fall over. The next day, in the stuff that Gerald gave me, I found this piece. And on the Facebook, I said it's Paduke, but I don't know that it's Paduke. If it's brown by Sunday, it's Paduke. But I made it very, very simple because I like the wood. I think that's really pretty.
I wish you could hold I wish that color would survive. I remember going through this with Paduke many years ago. It'd come off the lathe, it would be that color. Wow. But yeah, but doesn't stay.
I made, a long time ago, I made about 1,000 pens, and I would give them to people, but I'd always put one Paduke in there with 3 others and say, take your pick. And guess what? Even though I told them it'll turn brown, they always took the Paduke. It was, when you first cut it, it's almost like dreamsicle color.
Well,
boy,
I got one brick of Red Heart one time, and it seems to hold the color much, much longer. It still turns brown, but it stays more red more longer.
Red Heart, huh?
Yeah, but I never saw it one time.
I'm operating off of Gerald's charity, so I use what he gives me, and I'm very, very grateful. Gerald is, you probably know, the most generous guy in the world. So,
is he on today?
Anyhow, that's my story, and I'm going to stick with it. And thanks for letting me show that.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Jerry, I noticed that your English background, your English teaching background came through on Facebook. You put in parentheses how to pronounce Paduke.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I said that was just natural. Just put in pronunciation.
Puh-Duke.
Paduke.
Yeah.
And it might not even be a piece of Paduke for all I know. But it's really, really close. I mean, all the shavings look like when you work with Paduke, and sawdust from that wood plus a little bit of sanding sealer makes paint. I mean, it turned my hands red, and I can't get it off. I mean, it's very powerful stuff.
It'll wear off.
And it'll wear off. Well, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments for Jerry? Okay, Stu Bremner.
So, John, you'll have to spotlight me for Stu to do his thing. So I'm going to show a video of Stu. So if you can spotlight me.
Okay, I just had Stu spotlight. I'm still going to take that off. I'm going to, it's Bert talking, right? Oh, here it is here, right? Is this with the blue?
Okay, that's me talking, and I'm going to cue I got this thing queued up. Okay, and I'm going to have to switch. I won't be able to hear this. So somebody has to give me a thumbs. I got to switch my view so I can see somebody. And give me a thumbs up when you can hear it.
My name is Stu Bremner, here in my shop. I am...
Make it louder.
We just lost you. We just switched. You just somehow
switched camera.
You hit a button by mistake, and all we got is okay. Now we got half a Stu now. There we go. You turn your volume up if you can hear me.
I think I'm pretty close to where I want to be. All I need is just a flat to accommodate the drive.
Yeah.
Get that in here. Now, a critical point in doing these is balance and centering. Obviously, the balance is going to be just this way. Centering is important to get this right across the middle. So when we're complete with when we finish cutting the bowl, the wings are going to be the same on each side, as close as possible. So we're going to go with this. you don't get too much of a chance to correct it once you start cutting into this, because it takes that position of where it, where it is, and you pretty much have to go with it. I use my big bowl gouge. I got a 5/8, just sharpen this thing up so it's ready to go. We're going to try and clean this up a bit here.
Jesus. You turn that
I
on.
try to put as much as I can into it. Hopefully it'll stay here. That's cleaning up pretty nice. Nice clean wood. Got a knot here that's going to give us a bit of character, I think, if we finish up with that. You can tell when you're cutting when you get the full round on the wood. Hit and miss cutting air, it gets a little bit of a bounce, and of course it's no good. You got to get rid of this bark. It's right on the edge. Okay, let's take a bit more off of this and get some more balance to this.
Oh!
Well, that's not supposed to happen, but it does. I've had it before. Good. Sometimes these things come off and it's finished. Got a nice grain. Gonna be a nice piece of wood. Okay, I'm happy with that, how it's come back. We're gonna switch this out now and go on a check. And I always bring up tailstock support on the inside of this too. When I get going on here, keep in mind you're cutting a lot of air at first. It'll trim up fairly quick, and we'll be able to lose the tailstock support soon. I don't want to go in too far into the center here. The main thing I want to do is get my corners of the wings down to pretty close to thickness for what I want. The farther we go in, the more meat we take out, the less balance and more support you have out at the end. Now we're down to about a 1/4 inch at the edge. That's pretty close. Got to leave something for sandpaper. When I'm cutting inside here like this, I'm not actually watching the end of the chisel where it's going. I'm watching the silhouette, the thickness. You can actually see the thickness of the wood from the outside compared to the end, and that's how I judge whether I'm going straight or not. Now, a good practice I've found, you can't really see that edge all that well, so I like to do this. So I know on the edge how far I'm coming back. Sometimes I can see it. I can see that better. Nice piece of wood. I really like this stuff. Really nice looking grain. I love this wood. I may have to change tool rests here to a J-hook. We still got bark all around. I didn't chop any off, so it's looking pretty good. Got a nice speed, so we got a nice clean cut, and it looks fairly even. It feels pretty good. I don't think I want to go too much thinner. It's going to take 3/8 spool gouge again, and then kind of make a final drag pass over this and see if I can get a little finer finish to it. Dark clearance. I'm starting to like this. I just want to check for depth of the bottom, how thick the bottom is, and see how far we can go with this. I probably got a good 1/4 inch to go yet, so should be okay. And looking at the pattern of this wood here, we have the pith showing on both sides, and we want to take down a little farther, so we're going to narrow this core area a little bit, so it looks a little. I think it'll look a little better. I felt that. I think we're getting pretty darn close to that puppy, to where we want to be. I don't think I want to go any deeper. Let's flatten that out. A little bit of ridge here. Drag this back. There it is, pretty much. Got some nice bark edges. A couple little pieces came off, but we can salvage most of it. I think that's going to sand out real nice. It's fairly flat. It'll sand out for what's left there. I might just run a scraper on it just to give it a little bit. A nice piece of wood. Well, there we have it.
Okay, so.
Good show.
Thanks, Bert. That was good.
Good show, Stu. Questions for Stu? Questions for Bert?
I think we missed what kind of wood it was.
Ash. I'm going to do another one today. One of our members wants to see how it's done, so he's coming over this afternoon. So I'm going to do another one. I actually did 2 yesterday. I did a crotch wing yesterday after that wing one that I did. So.
I would have considered that log you started with to be firewood.
Yeah, it was going to be.
Hey, when you were, how do you adjust the speed? Does it flex more when you go up in speed, or try to keep the speed down? How do you do that?
I try to keep as fast as I can. I found that to be a cleaner cut. And, as long as you got enough, I just wind it up to balance. It starts to move a little bit. Just take it back just a notch. Just try and keep it as fast as I can.
I saw you standing right in the danger zone where that's going to come off, if it was going to come off when you were switching that on. I got willies there. I thought, why is he not standing over the side?
Stu, speaking of the willies, you're leaning on the tool rest somewhat when you're making that cut. Your arms seem to be getting awfully close to the wing there. How do you? I always make sure I don't, when I'm doing a wing like that I don't actually let any part of my body go beyond the tool rest.
Yeah,
towards the piece.
And actually, when I did that one, it did touch my arm just behind the glove. I felt it. I don't know, the other video that we did, I think maybe it picked it up. You might, if you watch the full video that's going to be coming up on YouTube for Bert, you'll see a little bit more of it, and it might be in there if you didn't edit it out. So I mentioned.
It's in there. It's in there. The full video is about,
Okay.
it's about 45 minutes long and it's on my channel. So anybody wants to watch the start to finish, the only parts I edited out were parts where him and I were just bullshitting, but it's 49 minutes start to finish from log to wing bowl.
And on that note, it's been
Bert, how do you prevent the wood from cracking at the pith?
Stu?
I'm not worried about it. If it cracks, well, it's going to be a design opportunity. You can fill it with epoxy or a coloring or some sort, and you can doctor it up. And it is what it is. It's wood, and I accept that. And my big thing that what I was trying to do with these is keep full bark. So when you get it that thin, it's really hard to keep the bark on that little rim. So I would call it, I power dried it. I used a heat gun and I left it running on the lathe and heat gun running against just to try and get the surface dried. And I gave it a coat of epoxy flood coat right on the rim of the bark, just to stiffen it up and preserve it from flaking off that. So by the time I'm finished with this, you'll see it maybe in a couple of months when it finishes drying. I'll have more epoxy on it, and the rim will be sealed up completely with epoxy. And you'll still see the bark on the wood, and I'm hoping that it's going to look pretty good. I haven't done one yet like that too much, but I'm going to find out what it's like.
Last question for you.
How did you finish the bottom?
Finish the bottom? I'll probably put it on a small vacuum chuck and run it off, or a jam chuck.
Okay.
When you stick it on in the vacuum, I bring up a tailstock support on it to hold it in there, and there's not much to pull off the tenon, and it'll take it down to like a 1/4 inch, and then knock that off and sand it with the sander, and that'll be it.
And how do you sand the wings? Do you take it off the lathe completely?
No,
and just
I leave
use
it right there on the lathe, and if you watch the full video, you'll see part of the sanding. I use a 3-inch oscillating orbital, and that works very nice for those. It's got a nice, it follows the contour of the wood quite nice. It's 3 inches is perfect, I think. And,
but the lathe's not turning when you're sanding.
No, it's stopped.
Yeah, you'd have to be stopped, or you'd be sticking the airplane.
The only part you can sand with it turning is right in the center inside.
Yeah.
That's about it. Maybe a little bit on the outside near the base, but that's it.
Stu, when it came off, I expected you might turn the studs on the Elio drive in a little further, but you didn't. You just
Actually, I did.
Oh, okay. I just didn't see it.
I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah.
Because that's what I would have done.
I think that was my problem when it came off, is the studs weren't out far enough.
Right. Yeah.
Could have a little better penetration there. And I was pretty aggressive on the cut too. So yeah, it happens.
Well, we'll see.
I was fortunate enough I managed to salvage it.
Going to pull the plug on you. We're going to see you all next week.
Wood shop